Did you guys know that in 2023, there was a survey that indicated that 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? This is roughly 3/4 of the whole entire population. Now, there's a multitude of reasons that could be eating away at your financial success. In this video, I've narrowed down to 5 main ones that I think are the biggest ones that eat away at people's financial security. And most of these are habits and things that people are doing that they don't even know that are killing their long-term future. So without any further ado, let's go into the very first point, and that is poor money education. You see, there's more to money than just, using it as a commodity. There's the understanding of how money works, how inflation works, how basically compound interest works in your favor when it comes to investing. You see, most jobs out there are just paid per hour. There's literally a max amount of dollars you can make per hour of work. You see, instead of working, if you just made a company or a brand and you sold that brand in multiple stores, there's no limit to how much money you can make. Whereas if you work as an employee or for some other company, there's a limit to how much money you can make per hour or per day. Now, a lot of people don't understand this because they think, life is all about working for like a boss for most of your life, getting those benefits, getting those travel points. That's what they really think about. But if you expand your mind and you see new possibilities, there's now even like an unlimited amount of money you can get. If you own multiple stores and all the stores are selling products that are yours, you can make $1 million a day even. Whereas if you work for a company, you don't ever see someone making $1 million a day, do you? A lot of people are staying broke because they don't realize the importance of money education. You're basically going to be stuck in that rat race the whole entire time. People who are actually not as confident in money education will avoid actually talking about money. They think money is the root of all evil, or when somebody brings up money, you could tell that in a conversation they dislike the topic of money. Think about it. If you wanted to get better at a sport, like let's say tennis. If you wanted to get better at tennis, you have to talk and explore the field of tennis. That's how you get better. But it's funny because when people, want to get more money or be more wealthier, they don't talk about money, which is contrary to the right thing to do. See, if you really want to learn and be not broke, you have to put yourself out there. You might feel uncomfortable, but uncomfort is where we learn to grow and become better versions of ourselves. Another place to get very helpful money education is through books. Now, anyone who's just getting started in the field of investing or even financial freedom, I recommend these 3 books because these 3 definitely helped get me started. I highly recommend you guys check these books out, and hopefully these books are very familiar to those who have already read them. The first one is Poor Dad, Rich Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. The second book is The Richest Man in Babylon, written by George Clason. And the third one is The Total Money Makeover, written by Dave Ramsey. You can also buy these in audiobook form, and that way while you're working or you're doing your daily walk around the park or you're driving to work, you could be listening to these audiobooks, and they greatly open your eyes towards the whole concept. You simply can't avoid topics around money if you really wanted to get better at it. Moving on to the second point, this one's a really big trap in this current day and era. And the second point is immediate gratification. Now that we live where technology is everywhere and everyone can't do without their smartphones, it's really easy to just go on like TikTok or Instagram and just scroll through and find a bunch of funny reels and memes that you can laugh to and get instant happiness in that moment. But you see, where it comes really, really bad is when you get too much of an addiction to this, and not a lot of people understand how far deep of a problem they might be already in. It's like if you use TikTok or Instagram more than 1 hour a day, you're definitely already in trouble. The problem with using it more than that is that you're not really living your day-to-day life. You're just living just to eat, get your basic needs, and just spend your brain online just getting instant gratification from these videos or pictures. And over a long run, if you fall into that cycle and trap, you're actually stagnating your life and you're not getting anywhere better. You're not continuing to improve and put yourself in a better position than you were yesterday. And if you keep falling into this trap, you're just working, just to put food in your belly. You're just living paycheck to paycheck, just pay the rent, spending most of your time outside of work, just on the internet, browsing through all these reels. So when you condense it down, you're just simply going to sleep, waking up the next day, feeding your body, just going to work to pay your rent, and just spending it all on these food and, instant gratification, like, the concert, the party, or the festival. You're just spending all the money there, and you're not really saving anything for your future. You see, now this is a problem because in the future, when you grow old, you can't work for the rest of your life. There comes a certain point where you're too old to work. You have to somehow have money saved aside for that phase of life. If you spend too much time in the instant gratification phase and you're trying to live now, but you don't save for your future, that's when you get into really big trouble later down the line. You see, so a lot of these traps are like, the food people post on social media makes other people want to have the urge to go buy those food too. All the foodies on Instagram and like those reels, they just convince people to come to those restaurants and also spend money. So we live in an era where like we're flexing, what we can eat to other people, but we don't really show off the bad points of our lives. So everyone thinks, life is so happy and everything, but all the bad stuff is covered underneath. So this is when you got to be a little bit harsh on yourself, and you got to realize when you're spending too much money. If you're eating takeout like 5 times a week, I would say that's definitely too much money. Being able to afford it is very easy. However, sacrificing your future and stability on it is not worth it. Because even though you can live in the present now and be happy, later down the line in 10 or 20 years, the now that you're living in will become your past. And then you'll be living in a new time, which is obviously the future from now, and you might not be happy about it. A lot of elderly people regret on a deathbed that they wish they have done that and wish they have done this. But the thing is, they only do that then because they finally saw the transition and realized how tough it was in the future that they did not prepare for. So going back over the 3 main traps on this one, it's like, a bunch of expensive foods, a bunch of expensive trips and vacations, and lastly, if they have absolutely no savings. No savings just indicate that they're not planning to save for their future at all, and they're just planning to spend all the money today, for that instant gratification. Now that brings us to our third point, and that is just having no goals or having really small goals. See, if you have no goals, the thing is in life, you don't really understand your purpose. You don't wake up looking for something to do and accomplish. It's human nature to try to set a goal and accomplish it, be proud about yourself for that reason. As you growing up as a kid, your goal is to finish high school and then finish with good grades to make your parents happy. And then after that, your goal is to earn that bachelor's degree. And then usually after that is to settle down and have a family and be happy with a family. So even after college and even after school, you should have bigger dreams about where you want to be. How much wealth do you want to have? Where do you want to live? How much kids do you want? These are all feasible goals to have, but what people don't realize is that sometimes there are even bigger goals that people might not even think about because they're not thinking big enough. You see, one of my goals is to be a decamillionaire, whereas I'm not just thinking about, how can I make it to 1 million? I'm very confident that I already know how to make it to 1 million. So now my new goal is how do I make it to 10 million, and how do I make it to 50 million, and so on and so forth. The thing for me is I always set goals. As I do one, I set a further goal that goes down the line. By doing so, I keep myself in the game and I don't really stagnate. As long as I keep setting goals for myself, I keep putting myself in very uncomfortable positions. Obviously, not because I like uncomfort, it's because uncomfort is where I can learn to grow. If you stay in a comfort zone all the time and you just like to be where it's comfortable, then you don't actually learn to grow as a person. You just stay stagnating for most of your life in that same position. And again, later down the line, if you grow too old and you can't do anything later, you might find yourself very unhappy. So being young, I encourage, especially some of my younger employees, to actually take more risk, because that's when you learn the most. You don't learn to ride the bike without falling a couple times. The same thing will go with financial security and money, is that you don't learn how to be wealthy without some failures. Everybody makes mistakes on the route to financial freedom. And guaranteed, I'm pretty sure you're going to make those mistakes too. But try not to be discouraged and take those mistakes as learning experiences so that you don't make them again and that you learn to be a better person. And then we're going to go to the very fourth one, and we're almost there, guys. But the fourth one is when you compare yourself too much with other people. Now, this goes back a little bit to point 2 about social media, is that everyone online is going to be posting about their highlights and the happy times during their life. But during the sad times, they'll be rarely posting and showing that to the public. Because we live in this society, the societal pressure to just, feel like everyone else is better than us is really big. It's really easy to feel down when you compare yourself to your old, classmates and peers from high school. being like he already got married, or like he's ready, like, has this much amount of money, or he has that car. Instead of comparing yourself to that, try to just work to better yourself and ignore what everyone thinks about you. Because at the end of the day, the only person that's going to be there around in the future is yourself. You can't guarantee that your best friends now will stick by you for the whole entire time of 20, 30 years and still be there to help you out later down the line. So if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people, try not to do that, because that really kills any kind of progress you have towards financial freedom. Moving on to the fifth one, and this is the biggest one that people don't even realize is stopping them from being financially free and rich, and that is your ego. Now, believe it or not, everyone has an ego. Before you even clicked on this video, you're probably like, oh, this is not me, or this doesn't apply to me. And that voice inside your head is the biggest killer. Like, absolutely the biggest killer of financial wealth in the future. You see, the older we grow, the more of an ego we grow with. That's why it's really easy to teach kids new things, because they are learning and they don't have such a big ego yet. But the older we get, when somebody tries to teach us something new, you will suddenly just have a feeling like, oh, that's not me, or I'm not dumb, I don't need to learn this, or like you feel like you're not inclined to pick up what they say. Like, this rings especially true when I talk to my employees and I try to tell them as nicely as possible something that I know could rub their ego the wrong way. And 80% of the time, I can tell that they feel discomfort. Now remember, it's human nature to try to be somewhere comfortable, and when we're confronted with things we don't like to hear, we put up that defense wall instantly. We just don't want to hear it, or we just want to block it out. But the thing is, if you want to learn and want to become better, try doing the opposite thing and trying to open your ear out and listen to what the other person has to say. If they're trying to give you advice and they're trying to help you out, they probably have a reason for saying what they want to say. So even if it's uncomfortable and it makes you, feel hurt or insecure, learn that insecure and that feeling will push you into a better place in life in the future. If we really don't learn to control our egos, there's no way that we can learn to become financially free, because our ego is completely blocking ourselves from getting there. Especially people who are a lot older than you and have the experience and made it to some place that they got financially free and they just have millions of dollars. You should learn to stifle your ego a little bit and pick up something from them. There's another funny myth that people believe that most of the millionaires in the world are actually born into that wealth. Well, actually, the surveys say that only 28% of people are really born from rich families, and the other 72 or something like that are self-made millionaires. But when I tell you that, you're probably thinking well, that's not me, or that's not true. There's suddenly this very egotistic self-defense wall that pops up and just prevents you from agreeing with what the other person has to say. And this is your own type of ego. I'm not telling you to drop your entire ego and just believe what everyone says on the internet, but you have to understand where your ego stands. And once you comprehend how you react to certain topics, is how you control where it goes. Most of the time, 95% of people don't even understand about this ego, and they just as soon as they hear something they don't like, they just tune it out and they just block it out. And that's just natural for them, but they don't even question why they did that. It's involuntary reaction, to something, and they don't even realize that they just did it, and they just walk away from that conversation. So when it comes to topics around money and stuff like that, you have to be open and you have to stifle your ego a little bit, just so you can hear out what the other person has to say. Dealing with your own ego is very important to your own financial success. You have to stop yourself and pause and think for a moment, why did you feel defensive around this topic, or why, when someone gave you advice, why did you not agree with it? It's really easy to retort. If someone gives you advice, you're like, oh no, that doesn't apply to me, or oh no, they were lucky, and no, that's not me. That kind of voice in your head will absolutely kill your financial stability in the future. You have to deal with it now, even though it's uncomfortable, because that's how you learn to become a better and stronger person for yourself in the future. Now, I believe the biggest barrier to financial success, and the one you must change, is number 5, is your ego, and that's the most important one to start with. I absolutely cannot stress that enough. And so to wrap it up, these 5 points are the things that are preventing you from financial freedom. And the first one's poor money education. The second one's instant gratification. The third one is small or having no goals. The fourth one's comparing yourself to other people. And the last one is your own ego. Now, I hope this video has helped you, and if you found this video very helpful, please consider giving a like and subscribe. It really helps grow this channel and outreach this video to other people that may need this information. Now, I encourage you guys to comment below your own experiences. And in the meantime, please check out my other 2 videos.